Hey, everybody, and welcome to Learning from Smart People. I am your host, Rob Oliver. And, I was just having a conversation with our guest from today, and she is someone that I have been following literally for years, and she had no idea. She has been giving me great ideas. I've been on her newsletter, and it's actually one of those really cool, mutually gratifying experiences in which I reached out to her to say, hey, I've been following you for years, and would you come on the podcast? And she's like, I had no idea that you were following me, but yes, I would be delighted. So my guest today is Dolores Hirschmann. She is an internationally recognized strategist and coach and has been a remote employee and virtual business owner for over 20 years. She helps clients clarify their idea worth sharing, to design their communication strategies, and to implement business growth systems. Dolores, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Rob, for finally meeting you.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I feel like we kind of have our own little mutual admiration society, which works really well. One of the things that you talk about a lot is this idea of having a cornerstone idea. Can you tell me what that concept is? What is your cornerstone idea for your business?
So I'll answer that first. So my cornerstone idea for my business, and it's right behind me on the poster behind me, is that I believe that ideas have the impact of the capacity to impact the world. And that when I have my clients communicate their ideas powerfully and gain momentum, they can realize the gift of that idea. So I believe in ideas. I'm standing in ideas for impact.
Okay, and let me just stop you right there, and because this is one of those things. Ideas are theoretical. Ideas are existential. Like ideas don't exist. You can throw ideas at stuff all day, and
And
they're
nothing will
words.
happen.
Exactly. But you said ideas impact the world. And how do you take that ethereal conceptual construct and put it into a framework that actually makes a difference?
Yes. And ideas have the capacity to impact the world,
Ah,
which means an idea is exactly as you say. It's a dream. It's a puff of air. It's a puff of inspiration. But executed and communicated ideas can have an impact in the world. And so that's where I live. In that I'm the bridge between the idea and the impact it can have.
that's that's awesome. And here's why. Okay, I'm one of those people. Every night I wake up for about a half hour to an hour in the middle of the night. I can't help it. There's nothing I can do about it. All right. And um, I have a disability, so I can't get myself out of bed. My wife is sleeping right beside me. So the issue becomes, um, I'm not going to wake her up to say, can you do something for me? None of that happens. And so in all of that, I think, and I've got all these ideas that run through my head. And then I, I forget them,
You go
or
back to sleep.
I go back to sleep, and they literally are like that puff of air that poof, they're gone, and they've made no impact. But what you're talking about is taking what people are thinking about, taking the ideas that they have, and bridging them into something that's going to make a difference. That's awesome. How long did it take you to realize that that's what you do?
That's a great question. We do until we figure out what we do, right? Sometimes, people say, well, I'm not going to take action until I really know what I'm doing. My answer is like, unless you do something, you won't know what you're doing. So it was in my doing. So many years ago, uh, here's the thing. I had climbed a mountain. I was at the top of the mountain and I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled. And I was asking myself, what's missing? Because at that point, I had launched my business. I was a coach and kind of an executive and life coach. And I liked it, but I didn't love it. And I said, what is missing? So I asked myself, what would I do for free all day long? And the answer to that question was I will hang out with people with really big ideas that they're doing something about these ideas. That's why I became a TEDx organizer and I started leading a local TEDx. And it was in that process of curating for my event, preparing the speakers for my event, that I realized that many of my speakers had amazing ideas and they had written books and started companies and they had done a lot towards that idea, but they couldn't really communicate it effectively. That the idea, that the heart of their work was surrounded by a lot of big words and big sentences and long paragraphs of introduction that really left people more confused than inspired. And so I understood that at the core of my work is removing the noise from the communication of ideas so that we can literally share the essence of our work out into the world and people can react not just intellectually but emotionally as well.
Okay, but what I'm hearing you say is actually, it surprised me a little bit. Okay, and here's why. Um, I think about things from a perspective, okay, and that is my idea is in my head, and you can't see my idea because it's in my head, and nobody will truly ever be able to see my idea like I see it. All right, and so I would have thought that you were saying I'm going to help people to be able to communicate their idea the way that they see it, so other people can see it the way they see it, and that would be really cool. But what you're talking about is you talked about removing the noise because when I have an idea, my idea, as you kind of alluded to, it's attached to all kinds of other different things, and there's all kinds of attachments that go with it. And what you're doing is you're almost decluttering the idea so that the idea stands by itself and is something that can be communicated effectively, and it doesn't have all of the peripherals that get loaded along with it. Is that exactly what you're talking about?
Exactly. That is what I'm talking about because here's the thing, we are humans.
Okay.
And I believe that we are gifted with ideas. We either commit to them and say yes to them and do something about them, or they're like some of the ideas that come in the middle of the night for you that are just passing by your brain. They might not stick, and that's okay because it wasn't an idea that you needed to execute. But when we say, okay, I'm going to do this idea, we start wrapping our human side to it, our ego, our fears, our beliefs, our stories, right?
Right.
Around it. And we start creating a messy communication of that idea. Like, well, I want to impact the world, but the world is too big for me. Or this is how I do it, and it's a convoluted way. Simplicity is the capacity to understand something really complex, remove the ego from it, and share it in its essence. And that's what I do with my clients.
I, I've often thought about the fact that communicate or intelligence shows up in many different ways. And the people who truly understand a concept are the people who can take that concept and explain it in a way that other people, no matter
A
how
second grader.
yeah. So that's it. They can take quantum physics is a language I don't understand, but if someone really understands quantum physics, then they can explain it in a way that I can understand it. And when they do that, that shows the depth of their understanding. Let me go back. I want to kind of tie together two things that you said, okay? Because we've been talking about ideas and about the communication of ideas and the capacity that they have, the capability that they have to impact the world. But you also talked about that understanding of what you do. And so I'm wondering, you're bridging the gap between what the idea that someone has and how to get it to somebody else by removing the noise. But then there's another step that goes, and I'm assuming that you're working to create the bridge between concept and action as well.
Yeah. So if we break it down, it's okay, there's the idea, there's the mechanics or the how that idea shows up in the world, and then there is the outcome or the impact that that idea has. When we communicate with the market, we actually have to communicate uh, starting with the end of the story. We start with here's the solution or the outcome that you could have. Let's say, I have a headache. I fix headache, simple.
Right.
So you start with the outcome in order to gain curiosity. But here's the thing. I believe that we are all walking through life with little antennas, and these antennas, we humans, right? Self-centered humans, because that's what we are. We're walking with these antennas that are tuned to the needs and pains and challenges that we have.
And
So, yeah,
and by we, do you mean we as
you
humans, or do you mean me personally?
no, me as a human, you as a human, each one of us is tuned, has these antennas tuned to what each one of us is experienced as a challenge or a need or a want.
Okay.
And so our brain, I have 4 children. And I remember when I was pregnant, all of a sudden, everybody I knew was pregnant. It wasn't that there were more people pregnant. It was, I was paying attention to that because that was the place where I was, me
Right.
personally. So when we are tuned into what we need, we tend to be attracted or match conversations, blog posts, articles, podcasts, whatever it is that is aligned with our need.
Right.
And so when that happens, there's a match. And
Makes
then we
sense.
go digging into that experience. So if you write an article about how smart people communicate simply, and I'm a smart person, I'm trying to communicate simpler, I will read it, and then I'll say, okay, well, how does he help people?
Sure.
And then from behind it is what your core idea.
Excellent. So to get back to that cornerstone and core idea, does it does it come from what you are doing, or does it come from what you are thinking, or how does that cornerstone idea for your business show up?
Yeah, so many of us don't know what that is. And as we sit down and reflect, and we actually do this reverse journey, it's like, okay, wait, what do my clients receive from our work? How do I accomplish that work? If you think about it, many service professionals, Rob, they just show up and do their magic. They never stop to think how they do their magic. But it's important to understand that,
Right.
because then you can grow and replicate it, right? And you can package it, and there's so many things you could do with it. And so when you reverse engineer your impact, you will find your cornerstone idea.
Hmm. That's beautiful. I was thinking about it from a perspective. A good friend of mine uh, is the general manager at a car dealership, and he talks about their leading salesman. He gets all kinds of sales awards, and sometimes they will ask him to share. And when he does, he's not able to effectively communicate how he does what he does because he doesn't even know how he does what he does, if that makes any sense at all. Um, so very interesting. But you take that idea, you build it so that you're reverse engineering to find out, okay, what is it? What is it that my clients, that my customers are receiving out of what I'm doing? And then that ultimately is kind of what clarifies what you do, and that becomes your cornerstone idea. Is that summing it up?
Yeah, think about it this way. You remember back in school, when maybe there was a test or a subject that you really loved, and you learned it not just to pass the test, but you really knew the concept. You learned it because you loved it. And there was no question a teacher could ask you that would throw you off base, because you knew the subject so well that you could be upside down, inside out, questions that you've never been exposed to, but you were comfortable and able to answer because you were so confident in your knowledge of that topic.
Right. But isn't that the concept of when someone's getting like a PhD and they have to do a thesis where they have to defend their thesis, and they're getting a bunch of people asking them just random questions about this, and they've got to have the information, and they've got it.
And they internally got it, that nothing will throw them off because they have spent 3, 2, or whatever many years studying and researching that topic, they own that.
Sure.
And so there's a confidence and a way that they can answer the most complex question in a simple way because they are so comfortable with their knowledge. That's what I'm talking about. Most entrepreneurs never actually become incredibly comfortable with the knowledge and the idea that they bring to the table. And
Okay.
therefore, go ahead.
But no, go ahead. You had a therefore. So I I am all about whenever someone says therefore, I always wonder what's it there for. So go ahead.
And therefore I need to drink water. No. Therefore, so when an entrepreneur hasn't done the personal exploration of exactly understanding what is it that they really do, they will be in situations where they're either writing copy or writing blog posts or creating products that they tap consistently go back to self-doubt. Is this really what I should do? Am I really they go into self-doubt and they go into what it's called imposter syndrome
Mm,
because they are not fully anchored in their cornerstone idea.
got it. So once you have that cornerstone idea, I'm assuming it's going to affect the way that you run your business and the decisions that you make as a business owner.
You got it. Exactly. The reason why you want this clear cornerstone idea is not so much to communicate it to the world, but to know exactly where you, as a business owner, where you are standing. If this is what I stand for, then now you know when you're thinking, oh, maybe I should do a product on XYZ because we are creatives. We create more products than we'll ever sell. And so when you are thinking, oh, I'll create this, then you have to ask yourself, okay, is this idea that comes up aligned or not with that core idea that I'm taking a stand for and that I'm committed to see it through?
Okay. And in that way, it breaks it down to a really simple, almost red light, green light. Okay. So this is what I want to do. I take it, I run it by my core idea, my cornerstone idea. And if it aligns, I've got a green light. If it doesn't align, I've got a red light. You make it so simple.
it, it ends up being that simple. And let me give you an example. Like right now, I'm in the middle of a launch, and by the time um, this episode releases, I may be done, and But as I'm spending a lot of time in the Facebook group answering questions. I'm doing a lot of Facebook lives and all that stuff. And every time I put my fingers to the keyboard and I'm answering, I literally center myself in what I believe, what I am intending to do in this world, which is have an impact by empowering people who can have an impact in the world. I'm in the business of helping people help more people. And so
Okay.
when I'm answering, I am asking myself, how can I help this human being help more people right now with what I'm writing?
Okay. And let me kind of parse through what I am understanding with what you said. And that is when you reverse engineer and find out what you're doing, what your clients are receiving, then it tells you what your kind of core idea is, your cornerstone idea. Your cornerstone idea is going to help you make business decisions, but it's also your cornerstone idea is also going to be what helps you market to potential clients.
It helps you with how you communicate, what you say, how you show up, where you show up. It helps you with all of the little tiny micro decisions we do every day. You can even say that once you get really clear on that cornerstone idea, you can parse it into different elements. You also get really clear on why you do it. We bring in Simon Sinek and the why, right? There's
Right.
so many, it really becomes, it goes from here, Rob, to here.
Okay. And for those listening on the podcast, she's saying it goes from your head to your heart.
Thank you for the translation.
Yeah.
It goes
And-
from your head to your heart and back to your head, of course, because your head is involved. But it really is so visceral
okay.
that this you can also bring in and tap into your intuition when making decisions, when writing copy, when doing a podcast. You became, and you can feel it now as I'm talking, that some moments in this conversation, there's moments that I'm really like passionate about what I'm saying. It comes through in my voice
Sure.
because I'm anchored in that. If I were just anchored in, well, we if you want to work with us, you can come to a consultation and then we can do this. I can talk about that, but that's just the mechanics.
Right. It goes from being an intellectual conversation to being an emotional connection.
Exactly driven by intellectual process.
And and at the same time, to throw, I'm sorry, I was going to say I was gifted with an ability to alliterate. No, it's a plague. I was cursed with the ability to alliterate. But you're talking about your head and your heart, but your hands, right? And that, so it goes from being an intellectual concept, it goes to being an emotional and a visceral connection, but it also goes to being an action that's performed. I love it.
Well, I always say we take action when we were able to combine the head and the heart. And I'm going to translate. When we actually bring together, and I put in my hands in the front, when we bring our left hand holds our heart and right hand holds our head, and we bring them together, we take action from a very intellectual, precise, and strategic way, driven and powered by our heart.
I, yeah, it makes so much sense. And so then as you run your business based on this cornerstone idea, that's going to make a radical shift in the way that you run your business most likely. Right?
I wake up in the morning and I do stuff I love. Every single thing I do in my business, even the things I don't like, I still love because I found a way to always be anchored in that I love. And so even an action like, I don't know, let me give you an example, paying the bills. And again, there's a lot of mindset work that I've done over the years. So don't just pretend that I'm a Pollyanna and I woke up this way. It's been a whole journey. I'm 48. But I
But 48's
remember
a great 48's a great age to be, by the way.
I'm loving 48. And
Oh, good.
also I can't wait for 50. There's
Uh,
something about 50 that
okay,
I'm
well,
looking forward
I'm
to.
48 also, and I'm I'm okay not being 50 yet.
So 1972, both of us.
Absolutely.
Um, but for example, paying the bills. I remember years ago there was this heaviness in paying the bills because I was raised that way. Society says paying the bills is a dreadful thing. Like it's supposed to be not something that is not fun. I pay my team every month, and I'm so grateful for them that I never miss that date. And I also always send them a nice note when I'm doing their payroll
Mm.
because because my action of paying the bill is manifesting that idea that I had of the work I wanted to have. 6 years ago, I didn't have any team and I was doing all on my own and I didn't love that so much.
Sure.
So it's about the mindset and the perspective of everything that you do, that when you know exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it, you become unstoppable and nothing becomes dreadful.
Okay, I want to get back to something you mentioned earlier. You talked a little bit about imposter syndrome
Mhm.
and that idea that like this is just little old me doing my little old thing that it's not that special. This is just what I do. And how do you help people to kind of get get the understanding that the ability that they have is actually something that has a value to other people?
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up because we all suffer from it. And even in this conversation, Rob, when I knew that you've been following me, part of it was like, why? Like it's just little old me, right? Um, and it's the same as if you're a parent and you have a child when they're young, then they become teenagers. That's a different story. But when they're young, they look up to you and you are their world. And you might ask yourself, why, right? But for that child, you are everything that they need to survive. each one of us is incredibly powerful and gifted. Each one of us, all of us, not just you, Rob, and me, but everybody listening to this podcast.
Right.
And it is, I've learned it the hard way that my tapping into or giving a lot of room to my imposter syndrome only enables me to stay stuck.
Mm.
While giving myself a chance, what if I'm brilliant? What if everything I do for the right people makes a difference? And I learned over time, Rob, that while imposter syndrome is there and somehow it keeps us safe because it keeps us from being honest and continue learning and working with integrity. It that's all it is. And so you say thank you to the imposter syndrome for keeping you honest and humble
Hmm.
and and on continuous learning. But is in the tapping into our brilliance and showing up for our brilliance that we actually give everybody that's listening to this podcast right now the permission to do the same. How many people would have suffered if you, Rob, had not committed to this podcast and this communication and given you the chance and the chance to be a guest here and the people who are listening to have a chance for this conversation? Who are we not to shine?
Right. It's that understanding that you we all have something that we know, something that we've experienced, something that we've gone through that no one that other people have not, and that other people could benefit from hearing about and from learning. And ultimately, it's to me, I think what you're saying is that the first step in growth and the first step in getting your business to where you want it to be, or to unlocking the potential, is to figure out what is that cornerstone idea and how to communicate that.
Yep, exactly, because it's the fuel that will keep you going when you're down, and is a clarity that will keep you on one lane instead of going like this through your business, like
Right.
this, meaning zigzagging left and right.
Right. Sure. Perfect. Listen, Dolores, you've been fantastic. And I feel like I could talk to you for quite a long time, but if people are looking to find you on the web, where's the easiest way to get you?
Easiest way is to come to mastersinclarity.com, and there's a lot of information there, and there's always a button on the top right that says start here, and you can hop on a call with my team or myself.
Fantastic. And you've got some social media and stuff, and I will happily put the links to all of those in the show notes. Great. You are offering a free gift to my listeners. You had talked about the TED way to raise visibility and get more clients. Tell me a little bit about that and where folks can get it.
Yes. So you can also get it on the website under Work With Us free resources. And what that is a book, an ebook that, it's actually a physical book, and you can get it as an ebook, that where I share how I helped speakers who wanted to be on a TEDx platform. I helped them how to stand out in the application process. And in doing so, I realized that the tips that I shared for them can be used for any business owner to stand out in their marketplace. So that's what that book is applying that knowledge into marketing in general.
Fantastic. And again, I'll put a link to that in there as well. Dolores, thank you so much. We have come to my favorite part of the show. You have shown that you are smart. I have definitely learned from you. It is time for 3 questions to establish your humanity. Are you ready for this?
I am ready.
Okay. What do you usually do when you have a little bit of time off?
I love to ski, walk, and cook.
Okay, so what are you cooking?
Oh, tonight we're cooking gnocchis.
Oh my word. Okay.
Gnocchis with some tomato based, something fresh from that we are planning. You actually asked me that question on a good day because I know exactly what I'm cooking today. Not always.
Yeah. Oh man. Gnocchis are fantastic. However, they're not friendly on my keto diet. So
Neither are on my keto diet, but tonight I'm not doing that.
Okay. If you could turn one everyday task into an Olympic event, uh, that what would be the task that you would turn into an Olympic event that you would most likely win a medal in?
Oh, that I would actually win a medal in. Um, huh, I would say the discipline of remote working, the discipline of working from home,
Okay.
because
And
that's a whole ball game. And as a mother of 4 children, I think I would win a medal on that.
I have no doubt at all that you would. Uh, all right. So last question, and that is, what is your favorite meal of all time? If there was just something you said, this is the meal that takes me to my happy place, what would you be eating?
Unfortunately, it's not keto compliant
Okay.
and is dulce de leche. I'm from Argentina. So it's
Okay.
dulce de leche ice cream from Buenos Aires.
Uh, no doubt. And that is, it is, it's not tres leches. The tres leches cake
That's
is something.
Mexican.
Yeah. Um, Dulce de leche is almost caramel like. Is that
Yes,
right?
exactly. And I'll give you a quick, funny story. So I had a big wedding in Argentina and the big dress and the whole thing, right? Many, many years ago. And I didn't eat anything the night before or the day off. Like, you're so nervous. And then the ceremony was over, lunch was over. It was a lunch wedding. And I was just starving. And there was dessert table and there was dulce de leche ice cream. And so the only thing I had at my wedding that I actually had I remember I had a plate and I was starting to eat a little bit, and then someone grabbed my hand to go dancing, and I ended up um, um, my dress got covered in dulce de leche ice cream. So I can prove that that's my favorite food.
Uh, no doubt. Well, listen, Dolores, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it. I will try and be as culturally correct as say muchas gracias. Um, and listen, for all of my listeners, go ahead, check out Dolores, take advantage of the free ebook that she's getting. And I hope that you all have learned as much from this as I did. I would encourage you all subscribe, communicate with us, let us know what you've enjoyed, and just let us know that you're listening and where you're listening from. In the meantime, I will remind you, as always, that when you stop learning, you stop living. Have a great day, everybody.